For me, it's that move from that digitization that really initiated it, going from, and I was there as part of it, that transition, but it was going from that very manual approach to things to that purely digital approach to having data you can actually effectively use within your organization. And that is the one thing I suppose I've seen over the time, is how the industry has looked at data and how it has used that data, how it has stored and wrangled that data, and how it has used it to its advantage. And what I'm seeing at the moment, and the one thing that completely and utterly fascinates me, I'm a bit like a moth to a flame on it, is artificial intelligence. I just find it so fascinating to see what's going on. I think maybe I watched Star Wars or 2001: A Space Odyssey a few too many times when I was a kid and a teenager. But to me, what it can actually do is so important. But I come to it from a governance and oversight perspective. The risk that it actually generates to an organization from the way in which this is used within the business and how it impacts on that wider issue that you've got from your customers to your other third parties who are involved in this. And that to me is absolutely essential as part of this, that you have that strong governance. But going back on that change, it has been so intense. It is so exciting. And I'm looking at where insurance was when I joined the industry, and probably the first 10 years, insurance was very slow. Not very much happened there. It was
more of a boring business.
Yeah, it was. But now everyone has really realized how vitally important it is to move, to develop, to change, to use the technology, because that is the only way you're going to survive. What we're seeing at the moment is, I suppose everyone is still slightly terrified that someone's going to do an Uber to the insurance industry, and what that will look like. So, what is it? There's one that's been great recently. I saw there's a firm, American firm, who are coming into the UK and elsewhere now, called Lemonade, and they were very proudly saying, "We settled a claim in 2 seconds."
Is that more of an insurance tech form?
Well,
or is it traditional insurance form?
It's a traditional. It was a household insurance. So someone had got a claim, and within 2 seconds of submitting the claim, the money was paid into their account, which was mind-blowing. Well, what little paperwork was necessary was done in 2 seconds. And for me, this is absolutely fascinating, because I love this idea of using the technology to better the service that we're giving to our customers in the insurance industry. Now, you and I, when we deal with an insurance company or any company, we want to be in a position to have things done in the most appropriate way. Now, to me, it's not about the speed of the journey. It's about the quality of the journey that you've been on with the business, the company that you're actually dealing with. And certain small things you want done in 2 seconds because they're minor. It's not going to take very long. But actually, there are going to be other things when you're in a bit of a mess, particularly in insurance, when you're going to want to have time to talk to somebody, to deal with things. You don't want to rush it because you may be vulnerable, you may be in a bad situation. Let's do it properly as part of this. And this is what I'm so keen to make sure that happens, is as we move forwards with our technology, digitization, the AI that will overlay it, and how that will evolve within the organization on that evolutionary journey that we will be taking on, that we don't forget the customer as part of this, because they're going to want certain things, and if they don't get it, they're not going to be happy. So yes, it's
a means. I mean, AI and digitization is a means to an end, right?
It is.
So not with the end itself, right?
It absolutely is, and that to me is the most important part of it. I saw it. I'm trying to remember the exact words now. It was one of the big 4 consultancy firms. They were looking at this idea of what you should have, and it should be a human-centric AI approach that you're doing within your organization. So it's the way I describe it is that you or I stand on the shoulders of AI to be better in terms of what we do, rather than saying, right, AI's in, you're off, out, bye bye, all of those sort of things. It's going on there. So, but I've gone off on a bit of a tangent here, but going back to what you said, what have I seen changing over my time in the industry? I've seen so much change, and I've seen it change in the most exciting of ways as the technology has been adopted, as these new working practices have come in. And what I saw as a sort of a gentle increase within the industry, a gentle level of change, has now suddenly shot up as these new technologies become available and we realize what they're actually capable of. And to me, that is fantastic. And this is why I would go back and I said, well, how did I join the insurance industry? It was very sleepy. Not much happened. It was very quiet.
But has it become more interesting over time?
Oh, so much more interesting because of that technology that's actually coming into the organization and the industry as a whole. Because you've got that, in a sense, it's almost like an arms race taking place. Everyone realizes that this technology can make your service better, reduce your costs as an organization. And that can only be good for what you're trying to achieve, both through your bottom line, but also ultimately to the premiums that you charge your customer, because your costs sit alongside your claims to determine your profits and your losses at the end of the year. So if you can start shaving even small amounts off your own costs in terms of your operational costs, but also your claims costs and how you can make things more efficient when you're paying out in a claims situation, you can charge less premium, which will potentially attract more customers, which can only be good.
Yeah, indeed. But just a question on that, right? You mentioned that the new technologies have really made things more interesting, but have they also brought in more challenges? Could be a number of challenges, right? In terms, for example, nowadays we have cyber frauds happening, right? Data privacy could be another challenge, right? So what are those challenges that you see these new technologies are bringing to the insurance business?
For me, it's the data. It's the data and the rules and the regulations that surround it, but also individuals' expectations about how their data is actually going to be used, and also about the understanding of what's going to happen to their data. And I think that's the big thing. So you have the regulations. So you have the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, which is coming in the European Union, still in the UK. And it's become that global benchmark as to what's expected. Okay, I'm not dealing with America here, with each individual state having its own approach to the privacy, but I'm talking about other areas. So to me, that is a very important thing. What is it? It's the data is the new oil. And things like that. I'm not going to start going on about that, but what it is it's particularly for insurance, it's the foundation for what you're wanting to try and achieve. So you need to be able to use the data to make what you do better in its most simple way possible. So you've got to have that data on board. And if you get it right, it's going to really help you. But it needs protection. You need to use it in a way that is appropriate. You need to make sure that people understand how you're going to use their data within your systems, within what you're doing, within your processes, so that they can be very clear as to what you will do, what you won't do, and to make sure their rights on it are protected. That's absolutely vital for this. So where do we go on this one here? So if you go back and you look at the data, it's also how we use it going forwards. Now, the big one is how people's data gets used in your AI developments within the organization. I think it was, It was Air Canada, wasn't it? They got into a lot of trouble because of the way in which they'd used individuals' data as part of their AI training, and it had got embedded. So how do you deal with that situation? It's
I think this is also... I think recently an Indian insurance firm, because of a cyber fraud, they lost the customer data, I think, for a couple of millions customers. So I see that as also the challenge, right, for the risk managers, right? How do they protect the privacy of the customers, right?
Yeah, it's in its basic extent. First of all, how you collect the data.
Yeah.
Are you making sure everyone knows what you're doing with the data, with their
Right.
data, once you've sucked it into your organization?
Yeah.
Once you've sucked it in, you do actually use it for the things you're saying and not for other things, just because you want to. You then have your layers of protection that sit alongside it, not only in terms of your external shell, so that you're protecting yourselves against hackers or cyber fraudsters, in terms of what's coming through, but also what goes on with that data once it's in the organization, that it is not being corrupted, that it's not being inappropriately accessed, and that you are making sure it is accurate. And then you're ensuring that people have their rights respected. They can be deleted. They can be got rid of as part of this, which is fine. We all want to do that at some point in our lives, and I think that's quite an important thing.
Yeah.
So going on from there, where do you actually want to go with this? You start looking at something like synthetic data as part of this.
Completely new data, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Even satellite data, or even generating new data, right? Artificial data.
Yeah.
And I think that is a possibility that we'll be able to assess risk in a better way if we make use of the alternate data sources and not just the traditional data sources.
I think you have to as part of this. If you look at any data, you're looking at, if you've got enough of a volume of data, you will get some fairly set patterns that sit within it to understand what is going on. So at that macro level, as you pull out from the data, you have consistent patterns in the way that things actually occur. And that's all well and good until you get to insurance, where weird stuff happens, where you can get a hurricane that suddenly appears out of nowhere, an earthquake, you get a sudden pandemic that comes through and causes havoc in your data.
Yeah.
Okay, how do you predict that when you're looking at artificial synthetic data? You can't, because you're dealing with a global approach to claiming patterns that is built on randomness.
Yeah.
Now, I think it would need a bigger brain than me to be able to try and work out how you can factor that into your artificial data as part of it. So it takes you back to, you need real data. You need data from customers, from real claims situations, because then you will start picking out those eccentricities. So my own personal view is the artificial data in insurance may be a bit of a red herring, a bit of a wrong way to go. I think you need to look at your data that you've got, but that means that the controls that you have and the risks that are generated from the use of that data, from your reputational risks to your regulatory risks, are all completely nailed down so that you